all the bullying I ever endured. Marco was, and still is, my sweet older brother. As a child, he was scrawny, friendly, funny, affectionate, and energetic. And he had Williams syndrome, which meant he was a special needs kid. Only in those days, no one had yet thought out political correctness, so my brother was just called retarded. Williams syndrome is a genetic disorder with a long, scary list of symptoms. When I look up the most common of them, it says unusual facial structure, developmental retardation, short stature, heart problems, and puffiness around the eyes. Personality traits include being overtly friendly, trusting strangers, and an affinity for music. My brother had all of these traits. He still does. For most of elementary school, other children were kind to Marco. They included him in games, and they'd even willingly invite them to their birthday parties. But at age 12, this all swiftly changed. As hormones began their insidious creep, kids who were once friends became blatantly cruel. My brother and I did not go to school together. He went to an all-boys school, I went to an all-girls. But we lived opposite a park and would go there together almost daily. I was 3 years younger. He was my only sibling, my big brother, my friend, and often my rival and arch enemy. I loved him. I didn't know how to be embarrassed of him, even when he laughed inappropriately loudly or let fly with the animal noises he was prone to making when overexcited. He still does. But as he got older, he would embarrass the other kids, as if knowing him made them uncool. One awful day, my mother was called to my brother's school. She brought Marco home with red eyes that were even puffier than usual. 2 former friends had cornered him and beaten him up in the bathroom, calling him Mongol, circus freak, animal. He could not understand what had happened, and his face registered only confusion and disorientation. And for the first time in my life, I felt real adult rage. It sped through me like fire, closing my throat and making me break out in a sweat. I was 8 years old and had just felt the shock of injustice. Marco stayed home for a week to recover. There were hushed phone calls with the low hum of my mother's fury venting into the mouthpiece. Marco and I lived alone with our mother. Our father had hit the road with a younger woman when I was 5. He couldn't handle raising a retard. At the time, I didn't think much about what it must have taken for my mother to raise the 2 of us alone for so many years. Now I do, and I'm staggered. A month after the incident, Marco and I encountered the perpetrators at our park. My brother flinched when he saw them, his overt friendliness damaged. He wanted to go home. He started making noises. His hands came up over his head. The boys, angry that the retard had caused them innumerable hours of detention, strode towards him, fists balling, mouths ugly grimaces. At first, fear turned my legs and stomach soft. And then, in some sort of miraculous intervention, the rage hit me again and I became possessed. I raced towards the boys, yelling words that had never dared cross my lips before. "You bastards!" I'd heard my mother call my absent father that often and suspected it was a terrible slight. "You stupid, mean little bastards! You assholes! You keep away from my brother!" And my God, it worked. It actually worked. The boys didn't know what to do next. They stopped, their faces froze, and they stood there looking just like stupid little assholes. The best part of all is that my brother started to laugh. He laughed, his inappropriately loud laugh with a few animal noises thrown in for good measure. The boys sloped off, vanquished, with that sound at their backs. It was wonderful. Admittedly, I was an 8-year-old girl, and even mean boys probably know better than to beat up on a small female child. But it was the first genuinely empowering moment of my life. And I guess I learned that it was actually possible to stand up against injustice.